Hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing a review and demonstration of this Zanussi flexitime ZWF844B3PW. This is part of the lower range of flexitime models. The higher range has a slightly different layout of the temperature and spin options, so instead of going horizontally they go vertically, and they also have bigger drums, so they've got like 9 kilograms, 10 kilograms, and their drums are massive. This is a 53 litre for 8 kilogram, which isn't very big really, but the 9 and 10 kilogram versions, which are higher end, have much bigger drums. So yeah, I'm going to start out by going over some of the programs and the options. Obviously not all of them, because that is a whole other series that I'm doing. Some of my favourites include Cotton, which is 3 hours and 5 minutes by default. I will go over all of the default times in a second. So I like Cotton because it has the dual tumbles feature, which is basically it will do fast tumbles and then it will slow down a little into slow tumbles, then it will go back up to fast tumbles, and it will keep doing that. For once it's heated, it will start doing that. So as soon as it's reached temperature, and then it will stop. Basically, when it's at the cool down or when it's draining, because it only does cool down on boil washes. And I also like the spin patterns and the long final spin that Cotton does, which I will talk more about later. Another of my favourites is actually Clean Boost, which looks long, 4 hours and 5 minutes, but in reality it's only going to take about, 3 hours and, I think it's about 3 hours and 20 minutes or so, maybe just about 3 hours. That's with a full load, because it is timed incorrectly, which again I will talk about more later. So as I said, I would tell you all the default times. So default time for Eco 4060, 3 hours and 5 minutes. Default time for Cotton, 3 hours 5. For Synthetic, 2 hours and 10. For Delicate, 1 hour 15. Wool, 1 hour and 5. Sportswear, Denim, 1 hour 45. Sportswear, 1 hour 25. Drill and Spin, 12 minutes. Rinse and Spin, 23 minutes. Dark Colours, 3 hours 10. Clean Boost, 4 hours and 5. Refresh 14 is obviously 14 minutes. Rapid 30, obviously 30 minutes. And Easy Wash 60, obviously 60 minutes or 1 hour. Some of the options as well, I'll show you that on Cotton. My personal favourite, Easy Iron, very useful. What that does is it basically reduces creases, and it does that by altering the spin patterns and reducing the maximum speed, which as you can see here has been reduced from 1400 down to 1000, which unfortunately is the maximum for Easy Iron, but it works well, and I will again talk about that more later on. So that's it for options at the moment. I'm going to talk about a bit about my experience with the machine. I got this in January of this year, so 2023, and at the time of filming, that is about 6 months ago, 6.5 months ago, and so far it's been a bit, I've had mixed opinions of it as time has gone on. At the moment I am thinking it is overall a good machine. It has some annoyances, which I will talk about in a second, but it also has a lot of positive things about it that I will also talk about. So we'll start out with the positives, because it's always good to start out positive. It has good overall programming, it has good wash performance, it has good spin performance, and it's quite sensible with the auto sense feature, and the average user would love it because the auto sense reduces down as much as possible, which I'll go over all of the times when we get to programming. And also I like the options. I think it has a great range of options with pre-wash, easy iron, extra rinse, and even a night mode option, which is basically silent wash. So yeah, I also think the design's pretty good. I think it looks nice. It's got a slightly curved front. The fascia is slightly curved. I don't know whether that comes across on camera. The lower end models like this are not as curved as the higher end models. With the higher end models, it's really obvious, the curve, but it's not so much unless you're looking at it in person on these lower end models. I also like the door handle. So it's not a ratchet lock, it's one where you have to pull the handle to open it. I also like the door sill with the cascade fill, although it is annoying sometimes with the cascade fill, particularly on the steam phase, which again I'll discuss later. I like the drum design. Normally I'm not a massive fan of drums that don't have holes at the back, but I think that drum design works, and same for older drums as well. So yeah, and also quite like the patterns of the holes on the edges of the drum, and again that works well for spinning. Now, the negatives. The sensing. I did say that it was good for the average user. I am a lover of long cycles, but I also need variety. So, this machine, as you can see, it has no intensive option, so no way of forcing a longer cycle. Even sometimes when I've loaded a full load of bedding, it has reduced to the minimum length, or the second to minimum, which means the spins are too short, the rinses are not enough because it only does 2, and the rinsing performance is already not the greatest from this machine, which I'll discuss later when we get to programming. And also I feel like some of the cycles are a bit limited in terms of, if you select for example cotton with the shortest flexitime, that removes the intermediate spins, so it impacts the performance overall, if you see what I mean. And also if it detects a shorter flexitime, the final spin is significantly shortened, which again I'm not really a massive fan of. I know why they've done it, but personally I'm not a massive fan of that. So yeah, reliability, hard to say. It's only been 6 or 7 months, so yeah, maybe I'll post an updated review and demonstration in a couple of years' time, because I do plan to keep this. I have been debating it, whether or not I'm going to keep it, but I feel like I will keep it, because it is, overall, it has more positives about it than it does negatives. So finally, programming. I've been postponing a lot of what I'm saying until now. Here's where we're going to really talk about the positives and negatives of the programming side of things. So I think I will start up with the sensing, specifically on cotton cycle. So I'll turn the dial to cotton so we have something to look at. So cotton's very interesting. I'll start off by telling you what the flexitime lengths are. So 3 hours and 5 on full, 2 hours 25 on half, and 1 hour on quarter. Now for full length, the times it consents to is 1 hour 24 for minimum length, 1 hour 38 and 1 hour 45 for sort of median sort of length, for like a half load or so, and then 2 hours and 25 or 2 hours and 43 for the full length, for like maximum load. So yeah, now a full load of bedding would typically sense to about 1 hour and 38 on full length cotton 60, which isn't really enough because it only does 2 rinses, which for a full load of bedding isn't great. For a full load of clothes it might be okay to do just the 2 rinses, but bedding, towels, no, I would like a 3rd rinse for those. Rinse performance of this machine is pretty subpar at times, and by that I mean it's not the greatest. Oftentimes on the softener rinse you will see some suds if you don't use softener, and you know, sometimes, occasionally, if you do a very short cycle, things will come out still smelling quite soapy, but you know, the shorter cycles are designed for smaller loads for that reason. But on full length cotton, when I use extra rinse, which adds 2 rinses, I did that with a full load of towels, and it sensed quite high, so I ended up doing 5 rinses with the extra rinsing. Even after the 5 rinses, it still came out quite soapy smelling, and there was still quite a fair amount of suds on the final rinse. So just bear that in mind if you have allergies. Maybe this machine's not the greatest choice. But yeah, the sensing is annoying. I have kind of gone off track, sorry about that. The sensing is the thing that annoys me most about this machine, because even with full loads, it's aiming to reduce as much as physically possible, which, you know, for someone like me who needs variety, who needs to be able to force a longer wash, yeah, and the worst thing is, no matter what you select there, it will reduce as much as it wants to. The way I would like it is, considering you've already got 1 hour flexitime, I think the 3 hours and 5 flexitime, i.e. full length, should not be able to reduce any further than 2.5 hours, because the next flexitime is 2.5 hours by default. And it won't sense higher than what you select, it will only ever sense lower than what you select, or equivalent to what you selected. So I think the full length should only be able to sense down as far as 2.5 hours. The half length should only be able to sense down as far as about an hour and, let's say an hour and 10 minutes. And then the quarter length flexitime, well, that can be kept as it is, because that can only sense down, I think, to 47 minutes or so. That would be how I would do it personally, because then the flexitime actually has a purpose. Because as it stands right now, the flexitime doesn't have a purpose, because the sensing overrides it anyway. So yeah, I will explain the cotton, the patterns of the cotton cycle. So, as I say, it'll start off with the sensing. That takes between 5 and 20 minutes depending on load, depending on how easy it is for the load to be saturated. What it will do is it will saturate the load gradually to provide a more accurate sensing state, to provide a more accurate result, I mean. So what I find is smaller loads typically only take about 5 minutes to sense. Larger and more absorbent loads take nearer 20 minutes to sense. So, you know, it can take quite a while sometimes. Once it's sensed, you'll hear the heater click on after you see the time drop, and then it will begin some slightly longer tumbles but at a constant speed. As soon as it's reached temperature, it will click off the heater, which again you'll hear, and it will begin the dual speed tumbles, which begin fast, then slow, then fast, then slow, and I think it does 4 cycles of that per tumble. It will always start on fast and end on fast again. So I think it does the fast section 4 times per tumble. Once it's finished the main wash, it will do a cool down if it's on 90, which is where it tops up the water slightly more to bring down the temperature of the water, and that's to prevent thermal shock for the fabrics when it begins the first rinse. After it's finished that, if necessary, it will begin draining, and at the start of the first intermediate spin it will do a bunch of tumbles, which is to undo any tangling that's happened in the clothes. So the first intermediate spin is 650 RPM if it's done on 90, otherwise it's 1100 RPM, and the other intermediate spins are always 1100 RPM. They will hold for about a minute or so on full length. On half length they will hold for about 10 seconds, and on quarter length the intermediate spins don't exist. The softener rinse will be very deep if it's a big load. The other 2 rinses normally about drum rim, and same for the softener rinse if it's a smaller load. The final spin, if it's a smaller load, will be consists of 3 phases, a 450 RPM burst, then an 1100 RPM burst, and then the main burst will be 1400, which will hold at 1400 for 65 seconds. If it's a small load. If it's a bigger load, it will be the same, but it will just hold at 1400 for 6 minutes and 42 seconds instead of 65 seconds. And anything in between will treat it as a bigger load. So from 1 hour 38 all the way up to 2 hours and 43, it will do the longer spin. On 1 hour 24 cycle, it will do the shorter spin. I hope that makes sense. I could go over all the programming of the other cycles, but this video will just go on forever if I do that. So yeah. So in case you skip to the end of the programming section, watch performance is good. Wrench performance not great. Spin performance good. So yeah. Overall quality. Now this is a difficult one. The internal quality is good. Like, it can handle unbalanced spins, it can handle suds locks, it can wash well, all of that. The external quality, yeah, not amazing. Also, and that even happens when touching the temperature button as normal, unless you do it very lightly, which I tend to do, just to prevent that. So yeah, very creaky plastic. The door, you know, it's more sturdy than some, but it still feels a bit weak at times. Occasionally when it's doing an unbalanced spin, you'll hear the plastic creaking, but you know, it's not the end of the world. If you don't mind those noises, then it's not a problem. The other thing I want to talk about, the draw. It's extremely stiff, like it almost gets caught over here on the plastic, which has been like since I got it, which again, it's not something that would throw me off of buying one or recommending one to someone else. It's just, you know, compared to some of my other new machines that I've had, it's not amazing. So yeah, but the quality as a whole is not terrible. I've had far worse quality, but I've had much better quality at the same time. So that's where I'm going to leave that pretty much. There's not much else I can say about that. So yeah, couple of hidden features. Now these are hidden in the sense that it's not shown to you on the display itself or on the fascia itself, but it is mentioned in the manual. One of those is the permanent extra rinse, which is achieved by holding free wash and easy iron for about 5 seconds, and what that will do is whenever you turn it off and then on, you'll see extra rinse is immediately lit up, and same if you go to any other cycle, extra rinse is always on where it's allowed. So for example, on refresh 14, you'll see it goes out because you can't select it on refresh 14. But if you go to easywash 60, again, it will automatically reselect it. So it's basically the inverse of normal, because normally you would have to select it if you want it. But with permanent extra rinse enables, you have to deselect it if you don't want it, if that makes sense. So, just turn that off. Now, if you hold extra rinse and night mode, that turns on and off the beeper, the main beeper. You'll see regardless that these beeps are they are always on regardless, but the on and off chimes and the ending chime can be turned off by pressing and holding these, which I like mine off personally. So, unless you can hear, not doing it anymore. The other thing, which I will demonstrate to you, and I'll have to demonstrate that by beginning a spin cycle. If you press and hold pre-wash and extra rinse, you get child lock. So now that's on, you can't do anything, and it will flash the child lock icon to indicate that. And you can turn the machine off, which would normally cancel. Then if you just turn it back on, it will resume itself, because it's remembered you're in child lock. So I'm just gonna cancel that. See, if you did that without the child lock on, it cancels. Now we wait for it to unlock, and we will do a little demonstration. So I'm going to be washing 2 duvet covers which have been in storage for a while, and I'm not sure if they leak, so I'm just going to put them on together. They are identical, covered in cat's hairs as well, and a little dirty. I'm going to be using some Fairy Non-Bio powder, not very much. Just that little bit. And I'm going to be using some Comfort, what is this, Cherry Blossom and Sweet Pea softener, which I'm going to put into the softener compartment of the drawer. And I'm going to select easywash 60 at 60 degrees. We won't do an extra rinse, we'll just leave it as standard. Off we go. done. Smells lovely of softener. Bit creased, stain is still there, but can't blame the machine for that. Very good. So what we're going to give this out of 100 then? I'm going to give it a 72. It's a good machine overall, but it has its downsides. It's got a decent amount of room for improvement. Certain things like the flexitime and the auto sense features could be done a little better, especially the auto sense feature. And the other thing I forgot to mention earlier, water levels as well. They're a bit all over the place. Too high water levels on easywash for the intended loads, because it's supposed to be from 1 to 5 kilos, and I think even for 5 kilos those water levels are a bit too much. And the rinsing patterns on easywash as well, I think, need a bit of work. Although having said that, despite the suds levels that you could see in the rinses, they haven't come out too badly. Yeah. One other thing I forgot to mention earlier, one other negative, I tried washing a duvet in here. I do have the video still up, but it completely failed with the duvet wash because of the sensing. If you want to know what I mean, look for the when videos go wrong 13.5 talk duvet wash video and you'll see what I mean. So yeah, if you're planning to wash a lot of bulky items, maybe don't choose this. But yeah, 72 out of 100. Not terrible, but still pretty good. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. If it was, then please leave a like. If you enjoyed the video, then please also leave a like. And yeah, any questions, leave them down below. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.